All right, welcome back. We continue on. The Penguins, after their season ended at the hands of the Washington Capitals. We'll do a couple of things here. I want to look back, but I also want to get an overall assessment of two guys, Mike Sullivan and Jim Rutherford. Jason, it looks to me like Mike Sullivan's style, everyone knows what it is. Play your game. Get to the offensive zone. Pinch the defenseman. Sometimes, though, you can go too far with that. We saw, as you mentioned in the first segment, too many odd man breaks, specifically tied to Chris Letang. Does he have to change his style at all?
No, I don't think so, Pomp. I think he needs a summer of health and to be able to condition and to come back this with sort of a fresh head. I don't think Chris Letang is incapable. I think he was thinking way too much last season. First, it was about the injury. Then it was about, am I playing poorly? Am I not? Am I making the right decisions? The Penguins, meanwhile, asked him to kind of tone it down a little bit. I just think he needs to go away for a while, and I don't mean that in a negative way, that he just needs to go away for a while, train, and get back to his game.
I'm of two minds when it comes to Chris Letang. One is a much more favorable read on him, and one is less so. The more favorable read is that he was in a lot of ways the same player taking the same risks that he always does, but that the physicality, the physical level of conditioning and just explosiveness clearly not being there because of the surgery hampered him and made some decisions that he can usually recover from, calculated risks, turn into things that blew up in his face. That's the charitable reading, and that with a full offseason he'll be fine. The less charitable one is this guy's 31 years old and still takes some of these insane risks that are pretty unnecessary or has these kind of space cadet moments during games. When is he not going to be that player at some point? Because you would think after this many years in the league, you would have a more fully formed guy that you could rely on more to not take chances that would hurt the team.
I think the fact that he's had as many injury/health major health injury concerns and whatnot in his career. He is 31 years old. I'm not sitting here saying that he's done and put a fork in him, but I don't know that he's the same player he was 2 or 3 years ago. And I think he also had a poor season. Again, maybe it's because of some of the things he's coming off health-wise, but I don't think we can completely just dismiss the fact that maybe he's never going to be the guy that he was 3 or 4 years ago.
That's the real question, Paul, is if he clearly wasn't the player this year that he was in 2016 when you could have made an outside chance argument for him at the Conn Smythe. You could have had like a reasonable case. The question is, with 4 more years left as a Penguin, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong with that 4 years number, but I think it's correct. Do you think Chris Letang gets back to 2016 Chris Letang? Because if you do, then you hold on to him and you don't even think about picking up the phone unless somebody wants to make you a hilariously lopsided offer. If you don't think he'll get back to that point, then you have to start considering your options at the very least and put them on the table.
I don't want to rain on this whole parade, but even if they would want to do something, boy, is it going to be hard. Because of the amount of medical care that Chris Letang received in Pittsburgh, what that list of injuries and issues and whatever, and we're talking, not just knees and shoulders, a stroke and all that stuff. It's not going to be an easy trade to make. You have a guy, like you said, Chris, for the next 4 years making $7.25, coming off a really inconsistent season that was the result of major neck surgery. I mean, there aren't too many general managers clamoring to get a guy like that. It's just there's too much risk there.
But there is
Edmonton available, maybe?
Well, there are a lot of teams out there would like him or Phil Kessel even. I have two-pronged question, Paul Zeise, about Phil Kessel. People got annoyed that he didn't talk to the media. I was not among that group. I really don't care one way or the other, although I would like to have known what the problem was. If it was medical, there seemed to be two different viewpoints by Sullivan and Rutherford. Number one, talk about that. But number two, would you trade him if you got the offer that you thought would help your team?
Well, for a team that needs wings, I don't know if you want to trade one of your better wings. Maybe probably your best wing. I think the big thing with him is I don't care that he didn't talk to the media one way or the other. To me, the biggest question is if he was legitimately hurt and banged up or whatever, Mike Sullivan said he had injuries all season long. Why did he play every single game, especially in down the stretch? Why didn't you rest him some to get him healthy for the playoffs? That's what annoyed me. Not that he didn't talk. I don't care if he doesn't talk. He's been aloof here and there with the media, going back to his days in Toronto. It's just who he is. That's fine. But why did he play all those games to try and keep a streak going or something if he was banged up and hurt? That made no sense.
Cal Ripken Kessel. I think that it was a combination of him being legitimately dinged up, but I think also there was some unrest there as to how he was being deployed. I don't think he was a fan of his line mates, and that just seems like the scuttlebutt that you sort of hear the whispers. Sullivan was very much in character to sort of not let him off the hook when he didn't chalk Phil's injuries as being anything special relative to the rest of the team, and Rutherford was sort of playing it his usual way as well. I think it was a combination of injury and maybe some unhappiness or frustration. As to the not talking to the media part, I do not care. What was Phil Kessel going to say? He was going to give a patented 10-word answer that offers nothing? Like, oh boy, that's some great copy. Who cares? Let him go.
I'm not healthy, right? It would be something like that.
You know, it's tough, though. Everybody's injured this time of year, right?
Oh, man. No, and I don't care about the injury thing whatsoever. And to address both of your points, one, you're both correct. The line mate thing was definitely an issue with Phil late. And also, you know, I think what we saw in breakup day was Rutherford was annoyed that Phil Kessel was allowed to keep playing late in the season. Sullivan was annoyed that Kessel didn't do a better job playing through whatever had him nicked up. But regardless, if they get an offer that they like this offseason, I do think it's worthwhile to trade him and to look at doing that. I believe he's 31. He's coming off his best season in a long, long time, his best ever in terms of points, but a really good goal-scoring season. If there's somebody out there that covets that guy with his contract over the next 4 years, I think you have to do it. You have the talent coming up through the pipeline. Daniel Sprong, we heard Rutherford's comments about him. So, yeah, I think you entertain it.
All right, now it's time to go around the horn with this week's edition of Smooth Moves, brought to you by Armina Stone, Pittsburgh's largest supplier of the smoothest granite, marble, and quartz countertops. That's Armina Stone. So we asked these guys Smooth Move of the Week. Paul Zeise, what's your smooth move?
Well, I think that this is probably not going to go over well here in Pittsburgh, but I got to go with Alex Ovechkin. I mean, here's a guy that really kind of got a big monkey off his back. I know he didn't win a cup, but finally beating Sidney Crosby and company in the playoffs. And you know what? Having a large part and a large reason why his team won, you got to kind of tip your cap. I actually feel good for the guy.
I guess I'll go next. My smooth move of the week goes to, there's so many former Pirates playing on the Giants in this weekend series. I'll go to Tony Watson for beaning Jordy Mercer to knock in and push in the winning run. Not so smooth. This is an anti-smooth move by Tony Watson, and not a real smooth move me going gray T-shirt on blue paisley here. Doesn't really contrast enough for high def.
I'm actually going Pirates. I know I normally stick with hockey for these things, but, man, as a fan, it was just cool to see the way Pirates fans received it, the way he handled it, the way the organization handled it, just A+ all the way around.
Yeah, we'll talk more about the Pirates a little later, but next up we'll talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Had rookies in town, tension in the quarterback room. We'll continue with that theme when we come back, but that was brought to you by Armina Stone, Pittsburgh's largest indoor stone gallery. Granite, marble, imported from all over the world to give you the smoothest countertops in the area. Check it out, Armina Stone. We'll be right back.